Welcome back. Okay, today we're diving into a genuinely fascinating set of source notes that completely demystify the art of the editorial. By the end of this explainer, we aren't just going to look at what an editorial is. We're going to uncover the precise nuts and bolts mechanics of how to build one. We're going to explore exactly how persuasive writers craft compelling, ironclad arguments and, more importantly, how you can apply those exact same techniques to your own writing.
Okay, let's dive into the syllabus. Here is our mental map for today. First, what is an editorial? Second, the four-part structure. Third, building your argument. Fourth, tone, style, and language. And fifth, the writer's toolkit.
All right, section 1. What is an editorial?
Before we can even think about building an editorial, we've got to ask a foundational question. What actually gives an editorial its unique soul? What separates it from literally everything else in a newspaper or magazine? Well, our sources define it pretty clearly. An editorial is a written opinion piece by a publication's editors or its editorial board. Its main job? Expressing a specific viewpoint on a current issue to either persuade or inform the reader. When you sit down to write one, you're basically stepping right into the shoes of an editor, writing for everyday people about something that deeply matters right now.
Now, you might be wondering, how is this different from standard journalism? It's a great question. Standard news reporting is strictly objective, right? It's facts only. You absolutely do not inject yourself into the story. Editorial writing, though, it's fundamentally different. It is inherently opinionated and way more personal. You're taking a clear stance. And honestly, that personal conviction is exactly what makes editorials so incredibly engaging to read. We naturally connect with the human element behind the argument.
Moving right along to section 2, the four-part structure. Think about it this way. If your argument is the muscle, this framework is the skeleton. Every single well-crafted editorial follows a super reliable four-part architectural flow. Step 1, headline. Step 2, introduction. Step 3, body. And step 4, conclusion. It's this linear, logical progression that's designed to effortlessly guide your reader from total ignorance on a topic straight to total agreement with your stance. Build a solid foundation here, and honestly, the rest of the piece kind of writes itself.
Our source material actually gives us a brilliant example of a concise, attention-grabbing headline. How tourism benefits people and places around the world. Boom. Instantly, as a reader, you know exactly what the topic is, and you know exactly what the main argument is going to be. There's zero ambiguity. And that clarity, that is the ultimate goal when you're naming your piece. But here's the catch. Once your headline gets them through the door, your introduction has to actually keep them inside. That is exactly where the hook comes in. A hook is just an attention-grabbing statement. It could be a strong fact, a provocative question, or a really bold claim. In a world where we are all constantly scrolling and skimming, your goal is simple. Stop them in their tracks. Draw the reader in immediately, and then follow it up with a quick overview to set the tone for what the whole editorial will cover. Let's look back at our tourism example to see exactly how a hook works in practice. Tourism is a powerful way to grow economies, bring people together, and protect important places. This sentence works beautifully, doesn't it? It grabs you with a bold claim, while simultaneously giving you a really clear introduction to the three main pillars the writer is going to cover: the economy, culture, and the environment. It is quite literally a roadmap neatly packaged into one single sentence. Okay, section 3, building your argument. So now it's time to flesh out the heart of the editorial. To create a logical flow that takes someone from just getting the context to having absolute conviction, you need these 5 specific building blocks: introduction, background, argument, counterargument, and conclusion. Think of it like a relay race, where each block hands the baton to the next. You introduce the topic, give the necessary factual background so the reader isn't completely lost, present your main arguments, tackle the inevitable opposition, and then wrap the whole shebang up. The real heavy lifting, though, that happens in the body section. This is where all the required points for your argument live. But, and this is absolutely crucial, you can't just state your points, you have to defend them. Every single argument must be strictly supported by evidence, logic, or concrete examples. Because without evidence, an opinion is just a feeling. Add evidence, and it transforms into a persuasive argument. Specificity is everything here. Look at how perfectly our tourism anchor text executes this. It doesn't just casually say, tourism makes money. No, it says, tourism helps boost the economy by creating jobs for local people, such as hotel staff, tour guides, and restaurant workers. It backs up its central claim with very specific, highly logical, real-world examples that any reader can instantly picture in their head. That listen, a truly persuasive fortress doesn't just defend its own walls, it anticipates attacks. And that brings us to the counter-argument phase. You have to actively address opposing views, and then you have to clearly refute them. Why? Because acknowledging an opposing view doesn't make you look weak. It shows you've done your homework. It makes you incredibly credible. It shows the reader you're fair, balanced, and confident enough to look the other side right in the eye.
All right, moving to Section 4, Tone, Style, and Language. Now, what's really interesting about this is how your specific responsibilities as a writer shift. We've built the structure, sure, but how we actually dress those arguments in words dictates their final impact. Your language has to be clear and concise. Formal and professional, absolutely, but still totally understandable for a general audience. You've got to be persuasive using logic and rhetoric. The golden rule here, be opinionated but be reasoned. Get to the point quickly so you leave a lasting impression. To pull that off, you've got to balance 3 distinct pillars of editorial tone. You need to be authoritative, showing expertise. You need to be balanced, acknowledging those counter-arguments so you seem fair. And you must be engaging, keeping that reader hooked. It's a really delicate mix. If you lean way too hard into authoritative without being balanced, well, you kind of sound like a dictator. But if you're balanced and totally fail to be engaging, you're going to sound like a dusty old textbook. You need a little bit of all 3 to strike that perfect chord. And finally, Section 5, the Writer's Toolkit. So how do we practically hit that tone? Well, our sources give us this awesome, practical toolbox of expressions you can deploy right now. Instead of opening a paragraph with, "I think that," try saying, "The question of whether this issue has widely been debated." Or to present a point, use, "One of the key arguments in favor of this is," or "It is undeniable that." Do you hear the difference? These phrases instantly elevate the professionalism of your piece. They make your opinions sound like objective, thoroughly researched realities. And when you hit that tricky counter-argument phase, these specific phrases are absolute gold. While it is true that blank, it is equally important to consider. See? That allows you to gracefully acknowledge the other side while pivoting right back to your own strength. And when it's time to offer fixes, saying something like, "One practical solution might involve," shows you aren't just complaining for the sake of it. You are constructively problem-solving. It frames you as a genuinely helpful thinker. Which brings us to the concluding expressions. To sum up, the evidence suggests that, or the time has come to take a stand on this issue. Your ending cannot be weak. It has to leave an echo. These phrases reinforce your stance and essentially demand action. They tell the reader exactly what they're supposed to take away from everything they just spent their valuable time reading. Remember, the conclusion is your absolute final opportunity to ensure your persuasive fortress holds strong. But here's a major, major rule. Do not introduce any brand new evidence here. Actually, scratch that. Don't introduce anything new at all. Just summarize your stance, remind them of the journey you just took them on, and deliver a call to action or a thought-provoking closing statement that is going to linger in their mind long after they put the paper down. Let's look at the final line of our tourism example to see how it's done. It has the potential to make the world a better and more connected place. Now that is how you stick the landing. It wraps up the entire narrative perfectly. It zooms all the way out from specific facts about hotel jobs to leave you with this really uplifting, big-picture thought about human connection. It takes a localized argument and makes it feel universally important. And just like that, you've got the exact blueprint for crafting a highly persuasive editorial. We've cracked open the structure, the logic, the tone, and literally the exact phrasing you need to make your voice heard. So my final question for you today is this. What current issue are you going to take a stand on using your new editorial toolkit? The world is full of messy debates, just waiting for a clear, structured voice to make sense of them. Go out there and start building your argument. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.